Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. I'm excited for our guest today. I just met Robin, 5, 10 minutes ago. So we're going to go into his story, as always, on the podcast. He's a TEDx speaker. He's an author. He's got a social media company. He'll get into more of that and what he does with that. But welcome to the show, Robin.
Angela, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you. Really excited about this conversation.
Awesome. Let's get into it. So what got you to the point where you were writing a book and doing a TEDx talk? Let's just go right there.
The TEDx talk came first, but I always wanted to write a book. I had this like bucket list of things that I wanted to do as I moved through my career and my journey, and one was a TEDx talk, and one was a book. And what led me to the TEDx talk was chance. I knew I wanted to get on the stage. I just didn't know how it would work. And I attended a street fair here in the Georgia, Atlanta metro area. And you know how it is when you go to these street fairs and there's like tables, but maybe you don't get eye contact with the person because you don't want them to sell you something. And you kind of like push stuff around and pick things up and look at it. So I was doing that, moving through life. And then I saw a table that made me stop in my tracks. It had four big letters on the front in red, and the letters read TEDx. So I shifted my attention over there and I did the same thing, shuffled some papers, kind of looked around. And then the gentleman at the table stood up, was very present with me, and I signed his email list. And as I was walking away, he called me back. He said, "Hey, come back here. I want to give you my book." His name was Daryl Stinson, and he was the organizer of our local TEDx chapter. That led me to becoming a volunteer. I was their volunteer social media strategist, launched all of their social media platforms, and then the next year, I was accepted to be a speaker. And that moment in time led me to actually completing the book afterwards.
Wow, that's so cool. How did you where in your upbringing, how was it that you just always wanted to write a book? Like that's not a normal kid dream.
Yeah, and it wasn't a kid dream. I don't think that happened until adulthood, really. But I
Okay.
started my career as a musician, right? At 9 years old, I was writing raps and I was like secretly rapping in my bedroom, looking in the mirror, performing to myself. My name is Robbie D and the place to be. And all the girlies just looking at me. Like this is me in the 80s, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then as I got older, I realized in high school where my classmates wanted to go to college, I wanted to like send demo tapes to record labels. I knew this was what I wanted to do. So I pursued a music career, ended up living in Paris for 2 years, organizing events in the name of hip hop. And then in 2010, my son was born. And when that happened, it kind of changed everything for me. And in that journey of becoming a professional, going back to school, getting my degree and growing in leadership, that's when I decided, you know what? I think I want to write some of this stuff down because I have a pretty interesting background, but also I think that those experiences could help people because in my journey, as fun and exciting as it was to like live in Paris and stuff, there's also a bunch of trauma and challenges that I had to endure and experience that I think would help people.
Wow, so it's cool. And so, becoming an entrepreneur, getting into social media, all of that kind of stuff, were you raised in an entrepreneurial family at all? And if not, like, how did you overcome some of the struggles that maybe came your way from like people wondering what you were all doing?
Yeah, I did grow up in an entrepreneurial family, but I didn't know it
Right.
until after I started my business because
Right.
it was so like second nature to me that my mother had a business. She had a beauty salon for many years. A little background, my mom it was an immigrant from Trinidad and Tobago, came to America with a baby in her belly and a fourth grade education, and had a really rough upbringing, but came to America and made something of herself, became a successful shop owner, went to be a homeowner in Brooklyn, New York, which for folks who know, like New York is very expensive, to buy a house in New York. So she was quite successful. And it wasn't until I sat across from a host of a show like yours that we unpacked it that that's what it was. Like my mom, I had been watching my mom all those years and didn't realize that she was in fact an entrepreneur. I just looked at her as mom.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes total sense. And that's what I find a lot. But not always, but yeah, a lot of times people that come from entrepreneurial and it's the one, like your mom was the one for your family that changed your family's stripes forever. So, but someone always has to be that one. Her family wasn't like that. So it's really cool. A great observation that you realize that. So you went into and getting ready for the TEDx talk, like was it scary? Is it scary to speak on stage for you? And, even now, is it still nerve-wracking or what are some ways that people could overcome that fear of public speaking?
People, it's like people fear speaking on stage more than they fear death.
Hmm.
Like this is a thing. People fear public speaking more than shark attacks. Like it's a
Yeah, it's
thing. Like
crazy.
it's terrifying. So I think my years of performing as a musician primed me to be a public speaker. I always tell people that, you know, I don't think it was that I wanted to be a musician and a rapper. I think I wanted to get on stages and share my message. And I think that's what eventually led me down the path of becoming a public speaker. So I'm still actively speaking. I have a talk at our local Chamber of Commerce next month. I'm speaking at the VidFest conference next month as well. And I still get nervous. I still get nervous. I get butterflies in my stomach. My palms get sweaty. What I would say as a tip to people, a couple of things. The first thing is understand that no one is looking at you the way you're looking at yourself. So if you fumble, if you make a little mistake, like you're probably, magnifying the situation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I always try to get my blood going before I get on stage. So I'll secretly go to the bathroom and I'll do like 20 jumping jacks really quick. Make sure you have enough time to catch your breath because you don't want to walk up on stage like, so I'll give him my presentation, right? So I always get my blood going. Before my TEDx talk, for example, there was a long hallway, Angela, and I did sprints back and forth about 5 minutes before I was on stage and got
Wow.
nice and loose. So those are just two tips that I use to get myself through.
Those are good tips. That's awesome. And then writing a book, you wrote it on social media. Tell us a little bit about your book and what it's about and, what made you decide to do it,
Yep. So
especially
again,
that specific book.
Yep. So again, the talk that I gave, the TEDx talk had a lot to do with the inception of the book. So there's a framework that I share in my TEDx talk called the sync method. Simple, yield to your intentions, natural, and change it up. And it's all about how we end conversations to make sure that we don't leave anything unsaid.
Mm.
And when I was writing the book, I wasn't writing with the sync method in mind. I was kind of just throwing all of my ideas into a document, narrating on my way to work and narrating when I was at the post office, like just talking into my phone constantly, looking at the document, trying my best to put it together. And what I found is that after I got off stage, I knew that the sync method needed to be a part of it. So what I did was I tried to kind of frame it around the sync method because a lot of the information in the book is what I like to think is timeless information for social. It's far too often in the social media space. It's like time sensitive stuff. It's like, okay, that was last week. You didn't like, we've changed. The algorithm has changed, right? Where
Right.
what I did was intentionally try to create concepts around algorithm proof content where this can work in this form of social media. It'll work on this platform. It'll work on the next platform. These are frameworks that I've used throughout my journey from when we had Friendster, MySpace, the earlier social media platforms that are still quite relevant today.
What are some things on social media that people like you're really good at this is your thing? What are like a couple things on social media that people are either doing right or doing wrong and should be pay attention to that you think are instrumental in success?
I think the right and wrong go hand in hand. So I think what people are doing right is they're showing up as their authentic self in the space because it's not like we're doing a virtual call right now, but we're still having a face to face, right? We're still
Right.
connecting on a human level.
Yeah.
I can see your eyes on the camera, etc., right?
Yeah.
So there's a barrier, but we're closer to any level of human connection that we can have. And I feel that sometimes these devices are a barrier for people to be themselves. So that is in fact one of the biggest positives and negatives, the biggest do's and don'ts is to like be yourself. Don't pretend to be something that you're not. You can actually, whether you're promoting a small two-person business or you're running a larger organization, let the brand's voice be true to what the values and mission of the brand are. And I think that's kind of the big picture secret to really having a good experience on social.
Being authentic. Yeah, that's awesome. And so have you always been in the social media world or have you transitioned at a certain point? And if you transition, what caused you to transition?
I've had a bunch of pivots in my life, Angela. Like I said earlier, I was a musician. And in those days, in the early 2000s, when I first started traveling in Europe, this is when social media first came out. The internet was still kind of a baby. This is like Windows 95 time, right? This is like dial up. Beep. This
Oh
is
yeah, I
like
remember that.
yeah, these are
Yep.
those days. And it was all new to everyone. And when social media really came on the scene, there were a few sites that came out. There was a site called 6 Degrees, um, which is credited as being the first social network, right? And then there was another one called Friendster, and then MySpace came out. And when MySpace came out, that's when I really paid attention as a musician trying to organize concerts, being overseas, and building relationships, honestly, with people in other cities and other countries. It was a huge vehicle that we had never experienced. Being able to like get on Skype. Remember Skype? Like, I remember those blurry calls on Skype and understanding that I was talking to someone in Germany while I was in another country. So, in those days, I didn't realize that I was carving out the foundation for my career. I was just booking shows for artists and for myself. In my professional career, I always worked with social, especially when I was in the nonprofit sector, because I had to manage a bunch of programs. I had a pretty big portfolio, and we used social for marketing, paid and organic. But it wasn't until I pivoted into marketing as a profession that I knew that my business would be built on that. The first iteration of my business was really music based, where it was like I was selling music production to people. But people kept asking me, Angela, they said, well, how'd you get 100,000 followers on TikTok? And I'll be like, well, I did this. Well, why? Well, how did you do this? Oh, well, I did this. Well, how do you do that? And I just kept giving them these tips. And I said, hey, maybe they don't want me to sell them music. Maybe I need to like offer these services. And that's how my social media career created and my business shifted.
Interesting. Do you still play music?
Hmm. On a therapeutic level, on a therapeutic level. Yeah. And my kids, when me and my kids get in here, my daughter, she's in a program right now where they let her try all the instruments, including singing. So she's like in her music bag right now. So me
Okay.
and her jam out in here sometimes.
Okay, that's cool. My dad was really into music for his kids. So he wanted a tour bus and the whole nine yards. So that's
Oh, that is
you were
awesome.
like living, we could have like exchanged parents there. Like he would have been super
Swap,
happy. Yeah,
parent
swap. You
swap,
should have
parent swap.
parent swap. It should be a whole new show. That'll be the new show. That's awesome. So, what got like transitioning sometimes for people is a big thing. And like you said, you pivoted quite a bit and transitioned quite a bit. Did you ever feel like, well, that's who I am, and then you had to like become a new version? And and if not, is it you attribute a lot of it back to your mom again, or what were some of the things that helped you transition from different things to different things and still not lose who you actually are?
That is such a good question. And this is something that I struggled with for many years. When I was a musician and when I was a nonprofit leader, my identity was intertwined with my
Hmm.
role, right?
Hmm.
So I wasn't Robin, I was Robin the rapper, Robin the
Right.
musician. I wasn't just Robin, I was Robin the program director, Robin the senior program director. My roles and titles were always intertwined with my identity,
Right.
which to some extent is okay, especially if you're building a general ecosystem of your humanity, of who you are. Like I'm a dad. I love basketball. I'm a podcaster. Like there's a lot of things that I do, right?
Right.
But my wife said something to me in this pursuit of identifying purpose and meaning in life as I was making a huge transition when I was moving from nonprofit leadership, where essentially I was like, at the top of the industry, like I could move into a big leadership position in another organization, right?
Right.
But I didn't feel the joy there. And I wanted to try essentially to start over in another area and grow there. And she told me something that's profound. She said, Robin, do what you are. And I was like, oh, I was like, like at first I was like, it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
But
What does that mean? Tell me, like, that's a good one, but like,
do
what does
what
it
you
mean?
are is really like stop showing up in spaces like doing the job that your job description or your business, manual, your SOP tells you to
Right.
do. That's a part of it. But in fact, who you are, your authentic self, your values, the things that you believe in, the things that fuel you, motivate you, that's the work. You can bring this manual into that ecosystem of who you are, but we have to lead with that. And that's when it dawned on me. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter what I do. I'm still going to show up as Robin. And regardless if I switch tomorrow, I might decide, you know what? Like I just want to create NBA content. As you can probably see here, like I'm a big NBA fan and I have an NBA podcast that makes not that much money, but I invest and pour into it because I love it. Tomorrow I might decide that I want to close the doors on my social media solutions business and like move to another state to do this podcast. And that's okay. And I think the fear that people have sometimes, I believe, is connected to finances, which is a general
Mhm.
concern for people, right? Especially as you're trying to grow something. But what I found in my transitions is that I always ended up better off on the other side if I could endure just a little bit of discomfort. And the opportunities always came if I followed my true joy. But again, I was being true to myself.
But you've also worked.
Yes, yes, yes,
Let's
yes.
put that in there because a lot of people are like, I'll just follow my joy, but my joy is sitting on the couch and eating Cheetos. Their money is not flowing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I get that. And I
So tell
think
us a little
too,
bit about the work ethic. I mean, yeah, to build these brands, to build these businesses, you already mentioned if you guys didn't catch this, he volunteered for an organization for quite a while before he became a TEDx. Because people are like, I want to be a TEDx speaker. I want to be, well, yeah, but will you do the volunteer? Will you do the work to get the thing? The author, like you said, you were like talking to your phone all the time. Like that was not an overnight, oh, there's a book. It took me an hour. It was amazing. So tell a little bit of the work ethic that's got you also whenever you transition from place to place to thing, how has that impacted you? And like what advice could you give someone that's like, I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna follow my passion, but where does a work ethic fit into that?
yep. So I want to just quickly go back to the money thing and then I'll come to the work ethic. So I
Cool.
just want to make sure I drove that home what you said. Like, yes, you need to make sure that you have what you need to survive, right? So I would never, any transition that I've had was always a transition that was safe. It's never a
Calculated.
risk because I have two kids and a wife. My wife would have she would have a fit if I walked away from something without knowing what the next step was. But I would say that I have, Angela, left money on the table
Mm,
to step into something else, believing that
cool.
it would benefit me long term. So that is something that I'm okay with because I have faith in
You
what I
have really
do.
belief in yourself too.
Yes, I know that if I put in the work, it'll happen. So in terms of work ethic, for me, what I see in people, and especially with having kids, right? Sometimes as children, raising children, you see your kids have ambition and they have dreams, things that they want to achieve, but sometimes their actions are not congruent with what their dreams are,
Right.
right? So I have a son. He's 15 years old. He's a great kid. He's in church. He's a pretty good student. He wants to be a famous NBA basketball player, right?
Yeah.
While wanting to be a famous basketball player, it's 10:23 a.m. here in Atlanta. He's still sleeping.
Oh gosh. Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
the point is when
That
we
tells
talk
you.
about when
Yeah.
we talk about work ethic, and this is what I tell my son, but it's something that's transferable for adults. I tell my team even, is that we have to get maniacally obsessed with the thing that we want to bring to fruition. It has to be something that you're crazy about in a good way. Something that you're obsessed with in a positive way. Something that you know if you pour into it and you can track the amount of work that you put into it, that you will yield results. And I think that's the part of the game that people leave out. Everybody wants to do their thing,
Yeah.
whatever their mission is, but are they willing to document the work, adjust when things don't work well, and double down when things do go well? And I think that's
Mm.
what separates people who are good and people who are great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just actually posted today. I read it somewhere. I can't. Was it Ed Milet? I give the credit to. It was not me, but it was like, is your behavior, is your daily behavior congruent basically with your goals?
Yeah. And it doesn't
Um,
lie. Like, I think one thing, Angela, that I did in 2021, we had a tragedy in our family, and I was like spinning, my head was spinning, and I did this audit of my life in terms of time. And I just really looked at where I was spending my time, because I was thinking about my kids. Am I spending enough time with my kids? Am I
mhm.
pouring enough into my wife? Am I also spending enough time on my business? And after doing the audit, I realized that I had a lot of fluff time, a lot of time that I was fluffing up the joint. And I think that if we can really take a look at how we're operating day to day, and you have something that is extraordinary, extraordinary results require extraordinary sacrifice. So Netflix, scrolling mindlessly on social media, your YouTube time, you're like, you need to really assess all of that if you have extraordinary dreams.
Mm. So good. And like I mentioned, you do have self-belief. Has that been something that you've always felt like you've had? And if not, how have you grown it? And even if you have had it, how would someone, because I feel that's a huge trait of a lot of successful people, is self-belief, self-confidence. Where do you think that came from, and how could someone develop it?
I'll start by saying that I struggle to have it, right? So I always raise my hand and say, like, yes, like I do believe in myself. Yes, I've had some success, but I'm also like in the mud as a human. I'm trying to be the best version of myself, show up in a way that my kids will say, like, man, my dad loves something, he has a career from it, and he's passionate. But I also have moments where I fall short. I'll start with that. So what gets me up, right? What gets me up to say, no, Robin, you actually believe in yourself. No, Robin, you've done this, you do this, and you will continue to do it, right? What really has helped me over the years is thinking about what I've been through.
Hmm.
So the fact that, when I was probably in the second, I was probably 2 or 3 years old. My dad was holding me like a little baby on his shoulder or whatever in New York City, and he had his hand on my head, Angela, as we were going into this building in the mid '80s in Brooklyn, New York, which at the time was a pretty volatile space. A gunshot goes off. My dad yells. The hand that he was holding my head with, a bullet is in his hand. 22 caliber bullet is lodged in his hand. It didn't go through, it didn't hit me. I'm here, right? And he survived. He's in good shape. He got a hand injury, but we talk about that in terms of like the journey. There were other moments in time where I've experienced things young and as an adult that make me think like, man, like Robin, did you go to Europe with a book bag, $400, and stay there for 2 years and grow an international hip hop movement? That's kind of cool, right? So when I have those moments of doubt and I question myself, I think about the things that I've gone through, things that I've done, and I use that as motivation to know that I can get through. And one more thing I'll add to that, Angela, another thing I do is I look outward to people who are going through things that are a lot harder than anything I had to endure or am trying to make it through now, right? I think about people with no lights, no water, people who live in war zones. So I always try to put that in perspective when I start to feel like I can't make it, because if they can make it, I know I can.
That's so good. So if you're listening to this, here's a challenge you can accept if you want to. Write down 3 or 5 things that you have won at in life. three or five things that you have done. You're like, yeah, like you graduated. I'm homeschooled. I don't even have a good GED. So you graduated. Hey, that's awesome. You know, you went to college or you got married or you had a kid or I don't know what it is. It could be something like that that you just like don't even count, but write those down and write them somewhere you can see them and dwell on them when you're like, I don't know if I can do this thing. Yeah, and then I like that what you said about focusing outward about other people. I know I do that when I'm like struggling because I have health things, and then I'm like, oh yeah, but that guy has like no legs, or that guy's like paralyzed and he's doing pretty good. I'm like, okay, so you're a little bit of pain, and yeah, what's your problem? And you start to like perspective. So, you know, I love those. They're really good points and very tangible for someone to implement as they go forward for sure. Which is awesome. So I always ask three final questions in wrapping up, and then anything we didn't touch on that you really think is really impactful for our listeners. And guys, everything about Robin will be in the show notes, his business. If you have some, questions on social media, all that kind of stuff, we'll have all that in the show notes. So definitely his TEDx talks, all the stuff. Definitely check that out. Check out his book, all that kind of cool stuff. First and final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
I would say look within for your true self. And I think that's a good place to start. Look within. Because I find too much that folks are looking outward for stuff. Start here, and then you can move out from there.
Love it. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
I said do what you are already, right?
That's
That's
your
my
favorite
go-to.
quote. I like
But I
it.
have
Good, good.
another one.
Yeah.
Um, People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
It's like Ed Milet says that a lot. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. And then third one, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Good dad.
Hmm, that's cool.
Oh, did you say one word?
One word or sentence. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dad.
Yeah. Yeah. What good our sentence. Good dad. It's great. What do you want on your gravestone? That's awesome. All right, you run into someone in a coffee shop. We went through some of that, building their self-belief, social media, be authentic, some of the stuff we chatted about. What's something, pivot, be willing to pivot. What's something we didn't touch on that you think would really be impactful for our listeners?
I think if it's okay, I just want to take a minute to highlight you. I know that you have a journey that you're on, and for you to take time to do this show to give people a platform to connect with your audience. And the fact that you're prioritizing your audience, who many of the people you probably have never seen, touched, or met in real life, but they tune in. Your show is amazing. You're doing great work. So I think that would be an example for people is to, regardless of the things that you're going through, whether it's physical, mentally, right on down the line, to know that serving will always help to get you through and keep you motivated, but also will live beyond anything else that you do. Like after I'm done, and my time here is spent, my voice on these shows that I'm going on will still live on. And I think sometimes people don't put that into perspective. So thank you, Angela, for creating a platform for people like me to connect with an amazing audience. And thank you for sharing your light with us.
Well, thank you. That was so sweet. I love it. Thank you very much. And yes, incredible audience. Guys, make sure to share this. Like I said, reach out if you have any questions. And, we can go out there. If we can change one life or one starfish at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Robin.
Thank you.